here we go. Fremont, more deliciousness in the dry fragrance. It's a little bit, I'd say it's a little bit more subtle and a little bit softer on the nose than something like Diablo or Ladro, partially because it's just roasted lighter.
Okay.
So those big heavy notes that are easy to detect in darker coffee or more developed coffee when it's ground are just a little bit more subtle for lighter coffee. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to be brewing Chemex for both the Fremont and the Queen Anne's. This is our Fremont. And I would say this could be good as an espresso. It could be really delicious as an espresso, as long as the person choosing to use it that way understands what it is.
Okay.
And so it's definitely like on the lighter side for espresso preparation, but I think it'll give the right amount of body and the right amount of sweetness, but it will have more acidity and more fruit flavors than our Ladro. I think it sounds awesome.
Okay.
But it might not be for everybody.
Okay.
However, in the brew coffee, in the drip that we're going to make here, I think that it's going to taste awesome. And I feel like, again, like I think all of our coffees really can be for anybody. I don't think anything that we're doing is so far out of the range of what people are used to with coffee that it'll throw them off. But I mean, at the same time, I think everything we're doing is really unique and really quality focused. So I find that when I brew coffee this way for people that are used to drinking like darker coffee or coffee out of a automatic machine or coffee in their office or whatever, I hear people say all the time like, I'm so used to adding milk and cream to my coffee, sugar to my coffee, and then they try it, they see the Chemex, and they're, oh, it's so beautiful, and then, and they see all the work that goes into brewing one, which is not really that much work, but for people, comparatively, it is a fair amount of prep time or prep work, or attention at least. And so when they see that, they go, oh, okay, well, I'll try it black. Like, obviously, I think I owe it to you, Jared, or to whoever, to try it that way. It'll make you happy, right?
And then as soon as you leave, I'm going to pour half and half in, except they don't, right?
They don't. Well, then they've said to me, like, hey, actually, this is delicious. And, I don't want to add any milk to this because it tastes like it's super elegant. It's got all these flavors. I've never knew coffee could have flavors like this. And, and it happens all the time. So, I don't know. That's what I love about Chemex. One thing I love about Chemex. So I'm going to tear it out just to make sure I have the amount of coffee that I think I have. And that is, it should be about 50 actually. So going by our ratio that we have gone by, I'm going to do about 750 milliliters of water, which conveniently is also 750 grams. So I'm going to tear it out. The nice thing about a Chemex compared to the brew methods we've used so far is that it doesn't really require a timer. It's sort of gravity timed. You just add the right amount of water and it goes through. There's no action required on our behalf, except just to make sure that we pour this water in a nice amount of time. So I do use a timer, but like I said, it's not really necessary. So I like to do a bloom, and so there's a lot of talk about the bloom. What it is what you see here. It's the coffee degassing. So fresh coffee, as it's roasted, it absorbs some of the gases from the roasting process. That's the easiest way to put it. And some of that coffee will degas naturally as it ages off of a roast. So I actually find that a lot of the coffee that I'm brewing at home could be anywhere from 8 days after it was roasted. Sometimes it's 4 days after it's roasted. Sometimes it's 2 weeks. Sometimes it's 3 weeks. And I feel that if the coffee is sealed and is airtight, and if it's great quality coffee to begin with, that actually is not really that big of a deal.
Okay.
I think it has to do with how it's stored and a lot of other things, but I think delicious coffee should still taste delicious when it's a month off the roast, to be honest. Anyway, so here's our Chemex technique. All I'm really doing is trying to fill this gradually and evenly. I just want all the coffee grounds to get about the same amount of contact with water. And I like to fill it all the way up because that gives us a more stable temperature up here. So we want this to be above 200 degrees. And that's actually surprisingly hard to do.
Yeah.
Because the Chemex absorbs heat, coffee absorbs heat, the filter absorbs heat, all these things absorb heat. So it's helpful to keep your water level higher. And we're at about 2 minutes right now. I'm looking for a brew somewhere in general between like 3.5 and 4.5 minutes is kind of a good range for the grind size that I was using and for this size of brew. I find that Chemex is great for doing more than 12 ounces. Under 12 ounces, it can also be awesome, but it's just a little bit harder because you have less coffee in here, so you're using less water, so you might want to use a finer grind, and it just becomes a little bit more finicky.
Okay.
Whereas at this volume, so we're doing 750 mils, that's got to be like about 20 ounces or something. So it's a little bit more forgiving.
And then your grind consistency is kind of somewhere in between the French press and the AeroPress. So this is like the medium range of between those two.
Yeah, it's basically, so I'm going to I had 50 grams of coffee, so I'm going to do a little bit more. I'm going to do 770 milliliters of water. Now we're at 3 minutes, and it's going to draw down. We should be about 4 minutes when it's all done. So yes, on this grinder, this is a little plug for Baratza, I guess.
We hate product placement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. Sorry about that. So on most grinders, so it's like I think it's more of, it's like a sandy kind of grind, maybe a little finer than sand. This is the same grind that I used, except it's going to be our Queen Anne. I'm brewing in a second. So it's a little on the finer side. But it's definitely coarser than what I used for the AeroPress. And again, a lot of that's just about getting the right grind for contact time.
Okay.
And I like, actually, when I'm getting used to a new grinder, I like to brew something like a Chemex or like a Kalita or something that's a pour over that I know if I pour a certain way, it should brew it within this sort of range. If I'm doing like a 20-ounce brew, it should brew in 4 minutes if I use like X grind. And if it's going super slow, then that sort of helps me calibrate to where my grinder's at. And then I can adjust for my brew methods based off of what I know about how this like drip responds. So here we are at 4 minutes, and it's basically 100% done. 4 minutes, 20 seconds.
Okay.
And it's going to be, I think we'll taste more like dried fruits in this coffee. Some, I would say like dried apricot, and a little bit of like lemon, a little bit of citrus. And in general, I think it's just going to be a little bit more like snappy, jammy than the coffees we've tasted before.
Okay.
And I'm going to go right into Queen Anne. So again, that was Fremont, fair trade organic, seasonal blend. All of our blends are seasonal because coffee is a seasonal product. And so we, the Peru coffee in there is, it's basically like right now I would say is kind of approaching the end of Peru coffee season as I see it. Maybe into like mid-spring would be the Peruvian coffees will still be holding up nicely. I mean, that's a broad generalization, and it depends on storage, it depends on all these other things. But I'm looking to buy Peruvian coffee and like Bolivian coffee, Colombian coffee. A lot of these coffees are going to be fresh and delicious in the fall, in our fall. So like October, November maybe is when they're arriving here in the States. And then so that coffee we've had for a little bit longer, and then the Guatemalan coffee just came in. So that's a fresh crop Guatemalan coffee from Central America because their harvest is just wrapping up. And so that's how my model for all the blends is kind of going. It always is evolving based off of seasonality.
So in the this is the Queen Anne you're about to do. And so what kind of differences are we going to notice between these as far as you said they're fairly similar, but...
They are, yeah. The roast on the Queen Anne is a little bit lighter.
Okay.
So that will be more apparent with that coffee. So the way that the coffee flavor comes out is just going to be, I'd say, just a little bit more acidity. It'll be might be a little bit of a lighter like flavor, a lighter taste, a lighter feel in the mouth. But at the same time, we might notice that it has a little bit more of a like lingering, really nice fruit note throughout. This blend is, I actually have a Rwandan coffee in here right now too. That again is nice and fresh, but it's it's good. It's
cool.
exciting.
All right, so you're gonna do the same ratios. Will you brew this guy up?
Yeah, basically. So this one's at 45, so I'm gonna do just over 700 milliliters.
Okay.
I'm gonna do about 710. And
cool.
my
We'll be
water's
back
almost
to
ready.
taste in a moment.
Awesome.
Okay, so you're gonna try the Fremont while Jared finishes up the Queen Anne.
Do you see this beautiful color, Kat?
I do.
This is more like
lighter.
tamari at my favorite sushi place.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice, tamari.
Yeah.
That's a nice little analogy, Sam.
Thoughts?
That's good. I was super scared when Jared said more citrusy because to me that always means pucker up under the mistletoe. And this is really pleasant.
This makes me think of cold brew, actually.
Yeah.
Like it'll make a really nice one for the summertime.
Yeah.
Cold brew.
Yeah, have you ice brewed in the Chemex?
I have, not with this coffee.
This might be good.
be
Benny
nice and
showed me
refreshing.
how.
So this is to me is more of that what I think of when I say like a berry flavor to it. You know, it's fruity, but it's a berry versus a citrus kind of a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, both of the coffees in there have a lot of fruit in them, and I love fruity coffee. Coffee's a fruit; it should taste like it. And
Not according to some people.
it's a seed. Right?
It doesn't taste like white mocha?
That's not my jam.
You did say jammy. I think that's a good, you know.
It's kind of winey,
Yeah.
winey, jammy, like a dark red, heavy, like kind of oaky red wine. Something like that.
Yeah.
Sangria.
Ooh.
Whoa.
Little fruit.
Crazy.
Nice.
So when I smelled the Queen Anne in the container, it had like I felt there was a real muskiness to it. And I couldn't think of a better way to describe it, but it was that sort of like very sort of cloying honey kind of scent to it when it was freshly ground.
That we've got some interesting coffees in there right now. We have the Rwanda definitely has like a really interesting character. It's got like I call it like a spice, or like sometimes it's a combination of spice quality and savory quality. But I think a lot of times when people think of both of those things in regard to coffee, they think of roast, they think of dark. So like a lot of people that have like a dark roast might put clove on the description or something like that. And I'm talking about like a different spice experience. So this is more of like I don't even know how to put it. Well, I mean, it's kind of like a hoisin type sauce.
Yeah, sort of it's like kind of
like a savory kind
like
of-
umami. You know. Are we ready? Is it ready to go? Or
I think it's about ready.
okay, because I'm excited to taste it to see if I taste that in the cup.
I think the way it translates with the coffee combination in here and the way it's roasted is that sort of spicy, interesting quality kind of becomes more of like a dried fruit, like fruit leather. So the spice note kind of takes a back seat, I think.
Okay.
But we'll see what you think.
All right. We'll dive in there. Tasting team.
Thank you.
So
Is this like the funnest tasting you've ever done?
best?
Yeah.
Best one ever.
Amazing.
Best one ever.
Good answer.
Except maybe that one in Marcala, Honduras. That one was pretty fun.
Oh God, great. Thanks.
That's cool.
So thoughts?
Not true.
This one smells a lot different.
It does.
It's lighter.
That's the
It's
Fremont.
it's a little complicated. Like you wouldn't expect that out
Okay.
of a light, a mild-bodied coffee.
So it's the Sam of the coffees. Complicated, yet you wouldn't expect it.
I have to process this coffee.
Yeah.
What do
a
you
lot
think,
going on.
Bunny?
There's a lot going on in such
Yeah.
a light cup.
Yeah.
It smells a lot different than any of the other ones.
smell like.
And this is the Queen Anne, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's really hot, so you might want to grab
Oh.
this.
This is the coffee that we predominantly serve in our cafes right now. We're always rotating fresh stuff in. We're serving single origin coffees, but this is kind of the backbone drip coffee that we use. And this brew is a little bit. I think it came out a little thinner than the Fremont brew. So some of that could be, slightly lighter coffees need more agitation, and they need hotter water. So it could be that I could have used a little bit slightly hotter water or stirred it at the top maybe or something like that to give it that fullness of extraction. Because I think this might be a little under extracted. But so what I look for in this is. I guess kind of a more delicate version of a lot of the flavors that we've tasted so far. And I think that this coffee, especially as it cools, is a lot of people talk about when coffee cools, it opens up, and you taste all these other things. I think this is a better example of that being true than some of the other ones. I mean, I find that with some of the darker coffees, I like them better when they're hotter, and I get more sweetness out of them, some of those nutty flavors, things like that. And as they cool, they become sometimes, you taste the roast more, and that's something that I don't like as much. Whereas coffee like this, as it cools, a lot of the nuance starts to come out, and so I like that more.